Hey, Shalom Israel. It's your brother Mahar, just coming back with another lesson on this Heavy is the Crown podcast. This is going to be a lesson that's much needed in the nation. You know, there's a lot of confusion, a lot of madness happening in Israel right now. There's people saying that, Gentiles can get salvation and heathens are going to be in the kingdom of heaven, and all kinds of crazy messages that come straight from the oppressor, but through the mouths of his agents, right? Come through the mouths of the people that he has on payroll, or at least that's the idea, right? You got brothers selling out for the bag, but there's been agents everywhere in Israel, right? There's been agents in and out of Israel, so to speak. I mean, like with any effort that our people have put into to sort of be separate from this nation, right? Any kind of movement that we've ever had, there's always been agent provocateurs in there, and to confuse the people and to further divide the people. So I'm gonna, this lesson is gonna be on Ruth, right? And this is gonna be a back to the basics lesson on the book of Ruth, and whether or not Ruth is an Israelite or whether or not Ruth is a Moabite. And a lot of people use Ruth as an example of a heathen getting salvation, right? And it's because there's no understanding behind Ruth and behind what it is that Ruth stands for, right? So hopefully, we can clear up a little bit of this confusion. But first and foremost, I want to give all praise to the Most High in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. I want to pray that this lesson is going to be edifying to the people, right? Let's see. That's where we're going to start off at. How about we get right into it? And, this is going to be, I'm going to mix and match it. I'm going to do a little bit of PowerPoint, a little bit of, the blue letter, a little bit of Bible Hub. We'll see where the Spirit moves us. But, the name of the lesson was Ruth an Israelite or a Moabite, right? And it'll be up to you to decide. I'm simply going to present the information, if that makes sense, right? And the first thing we want to do is go to, let's see, because this is important information, right? This is definitely important information, and people will make complete doctrines based off of misinformation that they don't understand, right? So what we're going to start at is we're going to start in Ecclesiasticus. All right, we're going to go to, let me pull it up real quick on the screen. Okay, we're going to start off at Ecclesiasticus 4, right? And we're going to go all the way to verse 28, right? Because this is what we should all be doing, right? We should all be striving for the truth unto death, right? And the Lord shall fight for thee. And the reason I bring up that precept is because a lot of people don't strive for the truth. They're okay with accepting what someone has told them, as gospel, so to speak. People will say that, all can get salvation, and people would just gobble it up. Right? People, believe in Sibo the Homo, right? Caesar Borgias, right? They believe in the white Messiah that is propped up in front of us, and and nobody questions it, right? But I know that one thing that the Lord loves is He wants you to strive for that truth, right? He wants you to ask questions. He wants you to go through these scriptures and figure out what it is that is the truth, right? And what is lie, what is false, and what is true. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Let's go back to this presentation. Right, and we're going to answer this question: was Ruth an Israelite or a Moabite? Okay. Without a doubt, you're going to understand. Lord willing, the Spirit will help you to understand what it is that is going on in the scriptures, and understand that the Lord is only dealing with Israel. Right. So we're gonna try to understand Ruth. Right, but before we can understand the books, right, there's a few things that take place before the book of Ruth occur, right? And in order to understand it, we need to understand the whole matter, right? And we got a few questions that we need to answer. One, when did the book of Ruth take place? Right? A lot of people don't understand when the book of Ruth took place. Right? We're going to find out what was the state of the land of Moab before Ruth came into play, or before the book of Ruth came into play. We're also going to find out who lived or who abode in the land of Moab at the time of Ruth. Right? These are very important, basic questions that people need to understand in order to figure out why the book of Ruth was made, right? And why Ruth is in the lineage of Christ, right? Was she really a heathen, or was she just an Israelite in heathen land? Okay, so first question we're going to find out: when did the book of Ruth take place? Now, 90% of people that read the Bible can't answer this one simple question, even though it's in the first verse, okay? And it says, now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled, that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. So we know right off the bat, it's already explaining when or what time period the book of Ruth took place, right? It says in the time of Judges, when the judges ruled, right? So, so in order to get reference for this, we need to look in that specific set of the book, or the Old Testament, where the book of Judges occurred, right? But you'll understand that it goes even before the book of Judges, right? Okay. So, back to when the book of Ruth took place. It happened between, and of course, these are all approximates, right? Some people say it was earlier, some people say it was later. It just depends which scholar you go through, right? But, being scholars, men can be fallible, right? But it occurred between 1350 BC to 1050 BC. Okay. And I want you to look at this map right here, or it's not sort of a map, but it's a timeline. It's an approximate timeline of when when the book of Ruth took place. And as you can see, we have the time of Moses, right? The time of Joshua, the time of Judges, right? Samuel, Saul, David, Solomon, all important people in the way that the Bible is put together. But the time that we're going to focus on is this little section right here with Judges, Ruth, and we're even going to touch on Joshua and a little bit of Moses, right? You know, we need to use sort of the entire book. We need to have context. You know, we can get certain context clues, you know, before the book of Ruth. We can get context clues after the book of Ruth, right? It all depends on how the Spirit leads you, right? But I'm going to try to explain it the best way I can. You know, Lord willing, like I said, the Spirit will lead you to the right answer. All right, so first thing we need to find out, what was the state of the land of Moab at that time before the book of Ruth? Right, and we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna use some precepts also, right? We're gonna start off with Numbers 21 and 26. It says, for Heshbon was the city of Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab and taken all his land out of his hand, even unto Arnon. That Arnon right there is the Arnon River. So we can see that, you know, and it's all going to make sense once I start pulling up the maps, but this land used to belong to Moab, right? But now it was the property of the Amorites, not the Ammonites, the Amorites, right? Let's see what else we got here. We got Deuteronomy 2 and 24. It says, rise ye up, take your journey and pass over the river Arnon. Behold, I have given into thine hand Sihon, the Amorite king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it and contend with him in battle. Now this is Moses talking to Israel, of course, and he's telling them to get up and go to the land that was promised to you. Right? And you're going to see that the way that the land was separated and the way that the land was divvied up between the tribes, you'll understand why things happened the way they did, right? So we see right off the bat that Amorite King Sihon took the land from Moab, right? So now the land belongs to the Sihon, and then you'll see that Israel will take the land from Sihon, right? Let's keep going. This is just a quick map of the way that the land looked. I don't know if you can see that top left. There's a little caption that says Canaan before the conquest of Joshua. Okay. Canaan was a large area, and the Lord promised it to who first? Promised it to Abraham. Right, and then out of Abraham came Isaac, and he made the same promise to Isaac, and then along came Jacob, and he made the exact same promise to Jacob. Right. Let's keep going. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom into this map real quick. Give me 1 second. Okay, so let me zoom into this. Give me 1 second. Okay, let's see if you can see that. You should be able to, but I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in a little bit just so that you can see. Right, we have Phoenicia up here on top. Right here to the right, we have King Og of Bashan. Right, then we have King Sihon, and you can see all their territory in the, I don't know if that's a gray or a blue or, you know, a dark gray or a dark blue, one of those. But then you can see the borders of Ammon, right? You can see the also the other half of Canaan that belonged to the Canaanites. Then you see Moab below the area, right? Then you have Edom at the bottom, and then you have the Amalekites to the left. Right? But this is the area that we're going to focus on right over here, all of this area right here. Okay. So let's keep going. Okay, so again, this is what happened before, right? The land of Moab was inhabited by Og, the king of Bashan, right? He was a giant who was defeated by Moses in the battle of Idri and was slain along with all his sons. Right? And then we also had King Sihon of Heshbon, the king of the Amorites. Right? He opposed Israel at every turn. Let's keep going. All right, what happened to King Sihon and his kingdom? Okay, we're going to go to Numbers 21 through 25. And like I said before, when we jump to different parts of the scriptures, it is all referencing whatever topic it is that's going on. And right now the topic is King Sihon. It says, and Israel sent messengers unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, saying, let me pass through thy land. We will not turn into the fields or into the vineyards. We will not drink of the waters of the well, but we will go along by the King's Highway. The King's Highway is also another dedicated highway that mostly everybody used until we be past thy borders. And Sihon would not suffer Israel to pass through his border. Right? He was like, no, you're not coming through. Find somewhere else. Right? But Sihon gathered all his people together and went out against Israel into the wilderness. And he came to Jahaz and fought against Israel. And Israel smote him with the edge of the sword and possessed his land from Arnon until Jabbok, even unto the children of Ammon, for the border of the children of Ammon was strong. And Israel took all these cities, and Israel dwelt in all the cities of the Amorites, in Heshbon, and in all the villages thereof. So we can see that, this is describing the time that King Sihon came against Israel. And what happened? The Lord had our back. Right? And we smashed them into pieces. Right, let's keep going. Now we're going to get into pretty much the same thing that happened to King Og of Bashan. Right? What happened to him and his kingdom? Right, so let's see what we got here. The same thing, Numbers 21, but we're going to go a little further down, 33 through 35. It says, and they turned and went up by the way of Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, went out against them, he and all his people, to the battle of Idri. And the Lord said unto Moses, fear him not, for I have delivered him into thy hand, and all his people and his land, and thou shalt do to him as thou didst unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, which dwelt at Heshbon. So they smote him and his sons and all his people, until there was none left him alive, and they possessed his land. That's a big point. They killed him and all his people, so that there was none left. So if there's none left, who's going to take over the land? The ones that won that battle. Now, if you want to find out more about these battles, right, you can go into Deuteronomy 2, I believe it's 26 on, almost to the end, somewhere around 37, 38, something like that. And it'll give you a more in-depth breakdown and a more, play-by-play on how this destruction occurred, right? You can even go to Deuteronomy 3 and 1, starting at the top. Starting from the top, going down to the midpoint. It'll give you a breakdown of everything in detail. All right, let's keep going. All right, so now we know that King Og of Bashan, right, and King Sihon of Heshbon were both destroyed, right? And they owned, or they conquered, all the land of Moab up to the Arnon River, right? That's important when you look in the map, right? Let's look in the map real quick. Let's go back to this map. Let's see this again. Okay. Hopefully you can see it. So you see the Amorites owned all of this land right here unto Ammon, because Ammon had a strong borders, meaning they couldn't get through their defenses. Right? You got the Dead Sea here, and you have the Arnon River right there. Okay. So everything before here up to Bashan used to belong to the Moabites, right? But now it belonged to the Amorites, and even and then that was taken over again by the children of Israel. Okay. Let's keep going. Let's get back into the slide. All right. So again, who abode in the land of Moab at that time after the destruction? Right? We have the children of Reuben. Right? That's one of the tribes. It says, and in this land is Deuteronomy 3:12. It says, and this land which we possessed at that time from Aroer, which is by the river Arnon, and half Mount Gilead, and the cities thereof, gave I unto the Reubenites, and to the Gadites, and the rest of Gilead, and all Bashan, the kingdom of Og, gave I unto the half tribe of Manasseh, all the region of Argob, with all Bashan, which was called the land of giants. Right, so all these lands belong to these three tribes: Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh. Right, and these are the respective precepts that you can go to confirm this. Okay. Right, so now that section of land that used to say for the Amorites, that dark blue, now became I guess we can change it to a different color now. And now it belonged to the children of Israel, the northern kingdom specifically. All right, let's see if we can look at the landscape thus far. All right, so that's that same map, but now it's different, right? Now the children of Israel are running the show in the old blue section is now green, right? So Israel goes up from Mount Harnon all the way down to the Arnon River, as you can see. But remember, this was all of the stuff that happened while the children of Israel were with Moses. Okay, there's still more to go, right? We still got the rest of the land of Canaan to take over. This is all during Moses, but then Joshua is going to take over after Moses died, right? But back to the landscape. This is after the defeat of Sihon and Og, right? And now it's Joshua's turn to take over. And Joshua did quite a number on the rest of the land, right? Joshua did a huge campaign to continue destructions of the other nations and claim that piece of promised land that was promised to the children of Israel. Right? So the Lord helped Israel destroy many people. Let's see how many. Okay. We got the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, and the Lord delivered up 31 other kings into the hands of Israel. All right, let's see how many. The Lord was doing some damage. Eglon, Gezer, Debir, Geder, Hormah, Arad, Libnah, Adullam, Makeda, Bethel, Tapua, Hefer, Aphek, Lasharon, Madon, Hazor, I mean, and the list is going to keep on going and going and going, right? The Lord was doing damage, right? And he was using Joshua and the children as his weapons of war, so to speak, right? So through them, the Lord gave the land to the children of Israel. Okay, so, we got to look at, after Joshua and the rest of the Israelites destroyed this other half of the land, now we got to see what it is that the land is looking like, right? Because now, this is what it looks like so far, right? Israel, or the children of Israel, the land that belongs to them, it's now shaping up to look like the actual territory of Israel, right? But as with everything, being the children of Israel, right, we are stiff-necked and hard-hearted, right? So, of course, we serve the Lord, and then, that's the entire book of Judges, right? Is we serve the Lord, then we go off. He beats our ass, excuse my French, he beats our ass, and then we go crying back to him, and he forgives us. And then the same cycle starts all over. And we go back to serving the Lord. Then we go off. He beats our ass, and we go crying back, right? It's a constant cycle, and it's why. It's because we're stiff-necked and hard-hearted people, right? We're hard-headed, So you can look at, the map now, and you can see the way that the land of Israel is shaping up, right? The land of the children of Israel. But not only this, but even in this conquest of Joshua, once the territories were conquered, right? Of course, the children of Israel started going off, right? And there was if you go to Joshua 22, you can see a clear distinction of a separation between the northern and southern kingdom, right? Because the northern kingdom that inherited the right side of the land, was Gad, Manasseh, and Reuben, right? They started putting up altars, right? They started putting up altars to a different god, right? And you'll be able to read that in Joshua 22. But let's keep going. All right, so what do we got now? Okay. Just like I said, Israel starts to disobey the Lord again, right? It's a constant push and pull. Right? As Israel started falling into idolatry again and serving different gods, right? Such as Baal, right? Baalim, Baal-Berith, right? Ashtaroth, the gods of Syria, Zidon, right? Moab, Ammon, right? The gods of the Philistines. Right? These were all most of the nations that were surrounding the children of Israel. Right? If we go back to that map, let's go back to that map. And let's see it real quick. Let me go back. Slovakia. Just want to take another look at that map. Right? You can see all the different nations that are still surrounding them. Right? And these, the children of Israel were serving a lot of the gods that were around them. So let's go back through this. Of course, you can refer to Judges 2, 16 through 19, just for confirmation of it. Nevertheless, the Lord raised up judges, which delivered them out of the hands of those that spoiled them. So of course, Israel was serving these other gods, right? But the Lord gave them a warning through and through. You go back to Deuteronomy, right? You go back to Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers. You're going to see all the time that the Most High warned the children of Israel not to serve these other gods. All right, but let's read this. It says, nevertheless, the Lord raised up judges which delivered them out of the hands of those that spoiled them. And yet they would not hearken unto their judges, but they went a-whoring after other gods, and bowed themselves unto them. They turned quickly out of the way which their fathers walked in, obeying the commandments of the Lord, but they did not so. And when the Lord raised them up judges, then the Lord was with the judge, and delivered them out of the hand of their enemies all the days of the judge. For it repented the Lord because of their groanings, by reason of them that oppressed them and vexed them. These are the other nations that are vexing the children of Israel, that are whooping their behinds because they were serving these other gods to the left. So what do we got next? We got important times that Israel was enslaved. Well, let's keep going. Of course, we're stiff. We're hard-headed people. We need a good ass whooping in order to get back on track. But these are just some important times when Israel was under servitude for another nation. Now, one thing that needs to be reminded is that though we were in servitude to another nation, that didn't mean that we lost the land that we had conquered. Okay, let's look at this one. This is Judges 3:14-30, and it talks about how Ehud delivered Israel from Eglon, the king of Moab. Okay, now one thing I also want to check out and I want to show is the fact that, let's go to the BLB real quick. Let's go to, all right, let's go to this. Okay, I want to show you something really quickly, right? Because, though Eglon was the king of Moab, this servitude didn't happen in the land of Moab. Well, technically it did, and that'll make sense later, but if we go to Eglon, let's go to Eglon really quickly. Okay, E.G. Eglon, right here, the king of Moab. We can see that Eglon was the king of the Moabite tribes, and he entered into an alliance with Ammon and Amalek, right? So that's Ammon and Esau, right? Because Amalek is one of the descendants of Esau, right? And they seized on Jericho, right? The city of palm trees. Now I want to pull up this map really quickly, and I want to see, I want to show, let's see, let's stick this here. All right, let's go to this map quickly. All right, let's check this out. Actually, you know what? I pulled up the wrong map. Let me pull up a different one. Slovakia. All right, I think I found the right one. All right, let's check this out. This was the conquest of Canaan under Joshua. So this is after Joshua helped. But let's look where Jericho is. Right, and this is going towards Eglon. Jericho is right here in the green, which is a territory of Israel, right? So Eglon went from Moab under the Arnon River, which is down here, right? Traveled all the way up to Jericho along with Ammon and the Amalekites, and put Israel in subjection. Okay, now that's important, right? The map is going to be one of the most important pieces of this lesson, right? Because we need to understand what it looks like physically in order to understand what it looks like in the scriptures, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's go back to the previous precept. All right. So, again, Eglon. In the city of palm trees. Remember that also, because Jericho is considered the city of palm trees. So we see that Ehud, which was the judge at the time, or the not Messiah, the savior of Israel at the time, because Israel has had many saviors, right? The entire book of Judges, from Judges 1, I think Judges 1 and 2, if I remember correctly, Judges 1 and 2 is continuing Joshua's conquest. And then Judges 3 on is all the times that Israel was conquered, okay? Judges 4 is talking about Deborah and Barak. Judges 3 is talking about Ehud. But also in Judges 3, there's also the king of Mesopotamia comes against Israel, right? And Othniel of Kenaz, I believe it's Judges 3, 8 to 11. He saved Israel, right? Then comes Eglon, right? And that was Ehud of Gera. After Ehud, you got, let's see, I have this written down. Then it becomes the Philistines that go at Israel, and their savior at the time, or their judge, was Shamgar, right? And then after that comes Judges 4, and then it's the Canaanites. And Deborah and Barak save Israel, are the judges and save Israel out of captivity. Remember this, I believe it's Sisera. Yeah, right here. Deborah received a message from God and summoned Barak, instructing him to gather 10,000 men and go to Mount Tabor. And God promised to lure Sisera and his army to Kishon River, and he delivered them into Barak's hands, right? You got Judges 6 through 8 is Midian, right? Midian comes against the children of Israel, and Gideon is their judge or their savior at the time, right? You got Judges 9 is Abimelech, the son of Jerubbaal. Judges 10 is the Philistines and Ammonites come against Israel, and Tola, the son of Puah, and Jair, the Gileadite, come to save, or come to be the judges for Israel, right? And then you got Judges 11 is Ammon comes against them, and Jephthah, the Gileadite, comes to save Israel, right? So we can see that in Judges, and of course, go into the scriptures and verify this stuff for yourself, right? Don't listen to what I'm saying. Don't listen to what anybody else is saying. You need to pick up the book and verify it yourself, right? This goes back to that Ecclesiasticus 4:28, right? You got to strive for that truth, right? What is the truth about the time of Judges, right? So let's keep going. So then now we have to figure out what exactly is considered the land of Moab, right? We got the plains of Nebo by Jericho. That's Israel's territory, right? We have Mount Nebo, which is against Jericho. That means across from it. That's Israel's territory. We have Shittim, Israel's territory. And you saw the green, the green section of the map. All the territory that was in green, all belonged to the children of Israel, right? You can go through it and line it up with what the map says, okay? Now, again, I just want to go through this and, just for confirmation, right? So let's find out about the plains of Moab. Let's check out, let's go into the precepts, all right? And let's check out, let's go to Numbers 22, right? And Numbers 22 is when Balak sends for Balaam, right? And Balaam, he sent messengers therefore unto Balaam the son of Beor to Pethor, right? And he wanted Balaam to curse the children of Israel, right? But he wouldn't do that, okay? But the precept that I actually want to focus on is, a few of them. Let's go to verse 1, right? It says, and the children of Israel set forward and pitched in the plains of Moab on this side Jordan by Jericho. Okay, so that area by Jericho is considered the plains of Moab, right? Though it belongs to the children of Israel already, it is still considered the plains of Moab. Now, this is very important to understand, right? Just because it's called the plains of Moab or the mountains of Moab or anything of Moab doesn't mean that it still belongs to Moab, right? This is, now territory of the children of Israel that needs to truly be understood, right? Let's go to another one. Let's check out, let's go to Numbers 26. We'll go a couple of chapters down to Numbers 26, right? Just to, get another confirmation, right? And Moses and Eleazar the priest spake with them in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho, okay? So again, though it's called the plains of Moab, it is still the territory of Israel. Okay. Let's get another confirmation. Let's go to Numbers 31, I believe. Numbers 31. And we'll go to... let's go to verse 12, I want to say. Where are you at? Okay, here we go. It says, and they brought the captives and the prey and the spoil unto Moses. Okay, this is after they conquered Midian. And Eleazar the priest, and unto the congregation of the children of Israel, unto the camp at the plains of Moab, which are by the Jordan near Jericho. Yet again, just another confirmation that though it's called the plains of Moab, right, it still belongs to the children of Israel. Okay, this is the children of Israel's land now, or territory. Okay, let's see, let's go for another confirmation. Let's do Numbers 36. Let's go to Numbers 36. And let's go to verse 13. Okay. All right. These are the commandments and the judgments which the Lord commanded by the hand of Moses unto the children of Israel in the plains of Moab. Again, right? So this is when Moab is giving them more commandments and judgments. Okay, and I think that's enough. That's enough beating of a dead horse, so to speak. Let's see, what's the next one? Mount Nebo. Okay, Mount Nebo. Let's go to, let's check out the map really quickly so see if we can see where Mount Nebo is. I wonder if it shows it. No, actually, I think I have to pull another map. Let me pull another map. Ah, there it is. Okay. Let's try this one. And Lord willing, this is, edifying in your understanding what's going on in this. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Oh, no, that's not it. Slocky, give me a second. Okay, I got the right map up now. Okay. Where are we at? Alright, here we go. Okay, so this is the map I've already shown you. Let's scroll in and we see, the green is what belongs to Israel. Right, and we can see Mount Nebo right here. Okay, we got Jericho over here. Right, and this is Mount Nebo. Right. So now let's go back to the precepts. Okay. And the precept that I want now is going to be Deuteronomy 32. Let's see, let's go to it. Deuteronomy 32. That should be around 40. Here it is. Now this is almost around the time where Moses is about to die, right? So he's telling, where is it? Where does it say? Here it is, right here, 49 and 50. And actually, we'll start at 48. It says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses that self same day, saying, Get thee up into this mountain Abiram unto Mount Nebo," okay, which is in the land of Moab, right? So Mount Nebo is considered the land of Moab, though it belongs to the Israelites, okay, which is in the land of Moab, that is over against Jericho, and behold the land of Canaan. Now what he's doing is he's showing Moses the land that he's never going to go to. Right, so he's over here in Mount Nebo, and what he's doing is he's saying to look at this side that has Canaanites. This what's this? Army green or something like that. This faded green over here. This is still the land of Canaan. Okay, it belongs to the Canaanites. And as you can see, it says this is Israel after the defeat of Sihon and Og. Okay, that's important. This is before Joshua took over. Okay, but you can see Mount Nebo right here. So he's telling Moses, stand right here at the top of the mountain and look over on this side, and this is what you're never going to get to. Okay, let's go back to Deuteronomy 32, and we can see, and it says, "Get thee up into the Mount Abiram unto Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab, that is over against Jericho, and behold the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel for a possession. And die in the mount whither thou goest up, and be gathered unto thy people, as Aaron thy brother died at Mount Or, and was gathered unto his people." Okay, and we know that Moses died because, or he wasn't able to enter into the Holy Land or into the Promised Land because of what he did, right? He didn't give God the glory. He didn't give the Lord the glory of being the one that allowed the water to come out of the rock, right? He didn't give God the glory at that time. So he told him, he said, okay, you didn't give me the glory, so you're not going to see the Promised Land, right? And that's pretty heavy. This is, one of the first saviors for Israel, right? So now let's go over to, let's go to Deuteronomy 34. And, just to get another account, right? It's talking about the death of Moses, right? It says, and Moses went up from the plains of Moab unto the mountain of Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, that is over against Jericho. And the Lord shewed him all the land of Gilead unto Dan, and all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, and all the land of Judah unto the utmost sea, and the south of the plain of the valley of Jericho, and the city of palm trees unto Zoar. And the Lord said unto him, This is the land which I swear unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, saying, I will give it unto thy seed. I have caused thee to see it with thine eyes, but thou shalt not go over thither. Right, so he brought him up there, but he said, you ain't gonna get this. You know, you didn't give me the glory, so yeah, I think the point is gotten. So now let's go to, real quick, let's go to Joshua. We'll go to Joshua 13, I believe. 13 and let's go to 32. Ooh, excuse me. It said these, and of course, if you go to Joshua 13, you'll see that, he's starting to divvy up that side of, that side of the land, and a little bit of the left side also. He's divvying all the places up, right? Even 21 right here. 13:21, it says, and all the cities of the plain, right? That's the plains of Moab, that whole section right there by Jericho, and all the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, which reigned in Heshbon, whom Moses smote with the princes of Midian, Evi, Rechem, and Zur, and Hur, and Reba, which were dukes of Sihon, dwelling in the country, right? This is all the land of Sihon, all belonging to the children of Israel. Okay, let's see. And the border of the children of Reuben was Jordan, and the border thereof. This was the inheritance of the children of Reuben after their families, and the cities and villages thereof. And then one piece of the land, he says, and Moses gave inheritance unto the tribe of Gad, even the children of Gad according to their families. All right, let's skip down. Skip down to 29. It says, and Moses gave inheritance unto the half tribe of Manasseh. Right, that was the rest of the land. Right, and this is again just to show that these are the countries that, here in 32 it says, these are the countries which Moses did distribute for inheritance in the plains of Moab, and on the other side Jordan by Jericho eastward. Right? So he's divvying up all the right side. Okay. All right, so let's go back to the slides. All right. Okay, so all of these territories plus more all belong to the children of Israel. Okay. All right, let's keep going. So let's look at it one more time. Let's look at the landscape. And we're going to see Israel, right? All the bright green is all the territory of Israel as of right now, right? Which belong to the children of Israel. All of it, all the light green. Okay, I want you to keep this in mind. All right, and just a quick summary. Right, so the land of Moab, again, was the property of the Amorites, Numbers 21. Okay, the Israelites destroyed the Amorites and took the land of Moab. Right? Joshua finished up the job the Lord sent him up to do. Right? Joshua 1 through 12. All right, the land of Moab is part of the promised land the Lord delivered to who? To the children of Israel. Okay, and then after the deliverance of the land, now there were judges set up in each of the territories to judge, save, and deliver Israel. Okay, not in all that, Sometimes it was, save, deliver, judge, not in that order. Right. And now comes Ruth, right? Just setting up that line of the Messiah, right? The chosen tribe of Judah. Okay, so let's keep going. Now we're going to start getting into the meat and potatoes of Ruth, right? And there's a few terms that you need to know, right? Bethlehem, right? It means the house of bread. It's a city in the hill country of Judah, right? It was originally called Ephrath, right? This is the place where Yahweh was born, right? And you can confirm this if you go to Genesis 35. As you can see, the precepts are already there. Genesis 35, 16, 19, 48, 7, right? Ruth 4:11. In Micah 5:2, it's also called Bethlehem Ephratah, right? Or it's also called Bethlehem Judah if you go to 1 Samuel. It's also the city of David, right? If you go to Luke 2 and 4, you'll find that out. More terms to know. Moabite, right? But specifically, Moabite in the BLB or in Bible Hub, whichever, Strong's Concordance or any concordance that you use, there's a difference between these two words that I'm about to show you. One is H4124, which is Moabite, and you can see all the meanings here, right? And this is talking about direct Moabites, and it matters because depending on what word is used is depending on what's being spoken of, right? It's almost similar to what happens in Exodus and Leviticus when it talks about the word stranger, right? One stranger is talking about the children of Israel, and then one stranger is talking about the aliens or the foreign. Right, so this term for Moabite, and this is the more of the general Moabite, right? It's talking about a citizen of Moab or an inhabitant of the land of Moab, and we know that the land of Moab belongs to who? To the children of Israel. Okay, it can be talking about a Moabite, a Moabitess, a descendant from Moab, a woman of Moab, or a Moabitish. Right, this term, this H4125 is very similar to the word Gentile that's used in Paul's letters. Right, now you can check one of the previous videos I did about Paul's letters and who Paul's letters are written to and who they're not written to. Okay, I did a pretty in-depth, like 2-3 hour video on Paul's letters, showing who Paul's letters are written to, right? And why that word Gentile is used and what it means, right? Gentile is, it's just a term. It's just a term similar to the words American or Mexican or black or, Latino or Native American. Like, a lot of these terms are just generic placeholders. Right? We know that the Lord only deals with, right, the children of Israel. He deals with each nation based upon what that nation is, right? Like Esau is Edom, right? Judah, the tribe of Judah, they would be Judites. I hope this is making sense, right? You can be a Judite, that's your tribe, that's your nationality, that's who you are, right? But you would use the term American or Mexican just as, just another made up term by this hypocritical world, right? Just simply just words to distinguish distinguish nations. That's all it is, right? And the crazy thing is Gentile actually just means nation, right? Doesn't mean nothing special. So let's keep going. What are we up to? Let's see. All right, now it is time to read. It's time to read. Let's start reading. Let's go to the book of Ruth and let's do some reading. All right, so let's go and read. All right. We'll start it off from the top. The book of Ruth. The book of Ruth is only 4 chapters, right? So it's not like an in-depth book as the book of Samuel, the book of Kings, Chronicles. It doesn't have a lot of detail to it. But what detail it does have, you can use it to distinguish what's being talked about. And you can formulate ideas based off of it. Okay, so let's start off. It says, start from the top. It says, now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. Now, just from reading this first verse, we can see a time, right? Again, when the judges ruled, right? We know that there was a famine in the land, so it was probably a time when Israel was going off, right? The Lord said he was going to be bringing famines, pestilence. If we go back to Deuteronomy 28, we can figure out what the judgments are that the Lord is going to do. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. Right? We know that when somebody is sojourning, right, they're going to visit. Especially if we talk about Leviticus. There's Moses is giving us the law of a stranger or a sojourner of Israel. Right? Like this is talking about, someone from, the tribe of Manasseh going to the land of Judah, right? Or a Judite going to the land of Manasseh or Ephraim, right? They're going to be a stranger of the land, right? Because it's not their land. Okay. I hope that's pretty clear. Let's go verse 2. It says, and the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. Went over earlier, the word Bethlehem and Ephrath are pretty much talking about the same area. Okay, and they came into the country of Moab and continued there. Now this is important, this country of Moab. And it'll make sense later. Hopefully it already makes sense, but it's still called the country of Moab. Okay. Verse 3. Let's dig into. There's a few points that I want to make on this verse 2. This section right here continued there. Okay. Of course, if we read in a different translation, it talks about that they went to live there, essentially. Let's see. Let's go to. Yeah, there's a good one in NLT. It said they reached Moab and they settled there. Now when we keep reading, we'll see how long they settled there. All right, let's jump down right here to verse 4. They dwelled there about 10 years. Okay. So now the first question that I want to ask is, why would Elimelech and his wife Naomi go to a foreign country, right, and live there for 10 years or live there for a long time, right? Why would you go to a heathen country in order to live there? And I think the answer is because they didn't go to a heathen country, right? And it'll make sense later. So I think actually, let's go real quick. Let's go to, because I'm also, what I also want to prove is that these were righteous individuals, right? Naomi was righteous. Elimelech was righteous, right? Their children were righteous, right? So let's actually go to, just real quick, I just want to prove that it's not the actual land of Moab that's under the Arnon River, right? Let's go to Deuteronomy 2, and we'll go to verse 9, right? And it says, "And the Lord said unto me, distress not the Moabites, neither contend with them in battle, for I will not give thee of their land for a possession, because I have given Ar unto the children of Lot for a possession." Now, if you know where the land of Ar is, it's in that southern section at the bottom of the Dead Sea, right under the Jordan. On the other side, the Jordan Sea drains. The Jordan River drains into the Dead Sea. It's on the southernmost part of the Dead Sea. That's where the land of Ar is, and that's given to the children of Lot, right? The Moabites. So the question remains: why would Elimelech and Naomi go to, a place where they know they're not going to be wanted, right? That's the question that needs answering. Okay, so let's go back to Ruth. Up to verse 3, right? "And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons, right? And they took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelled there about 10 years. Okay, so again, the use of wordplay here, right? What does this mean? Women of Moab. All right, let's go into that and let's figure out what kind of Moabite we're talking about here. There it is, H4125. Right, it's not H4124. Remember, H4124 was an actual descendant of Moab. Right, this is talking about, again, a citizen of Moab or an inhabitant of the land of Moab. Okay, Moabitish. Right, so these women that are being taken here are Moabitish women. Right, and we saw earlier how the plains of Moab, right, or Mount Nebo in the land of Moab, right, even though they were property of the children of Israel, right? So let's keep going. Matter of fact, I want to actually let's go into a different translation, see if we can find something that looks out of place. Let's see. Not really. Oh, here we go. There's one. And they take to them wives, Moabitesses. Right? Same as Moabitish. Right? We can understand by the interlinear and which word is being used. Right? H4125, that it's talking about Moabitish women, not actual Moabites. Okay, not H4124, but H4125. Ish women's. So let's keep reading. And Mahlon and Chilion died, also both of them, and the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab how that the Lord had visited his people in giving them bread. Okay. Now, one of my first questions would be, why is it that wherever they're at in the quote unquote country of Moab, why is there talk of the Lord? Right? That was like the first question that popped into mind. So they're going to be leaving the country of Moab and going back where? Back to their country, which was Bethlehem, Judah, or Ephratah, right? So let's keep reading. It says, verse 7, it says, wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah. And Naomi said unto her 2 daughters-in-law, go, return each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. Now, when has the Lord ever dealt kindly with the children of Moab? You know, that's not really a trick question. It's a question that's supposed to make you think. Right? Let's go to Deuteronomy 23, and we'll look at verse 6. Okay. And this is if we go up to, the topic or the context, this is talking about people that are excluded from the assembly. Okay. Verse 2, it says, a bastard shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord, even to his 10th generation shall he not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Right? Pretty much forever. Okay. Verse 3, an Ammonite or Moabite shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Even to their 10th generation shall they not enter the congregation of the Lord forever. Meaning they're never going to be amongst the children of Israel. Okay, so let's go to verse 6. Right? Still talking about the children of Ammon and Moab. It says, thou shalt not seek their peace nor their prosperity all thy days forever. Right? This is talking like you would never wish well, or the Lord especially will never wish well upon the children of Moab. So this verse right here, in verse 8, saying that the Lord deal kindly with you, that's not talking about actual Moabites, right? That's talking about the Moabitish. Okay, so let's keep reading. It said, the Lord grant you that ye may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. You know, again, trying to give them well wishes, right? And send them back on their way. But the question is, where are they sending them back to? That's the question. Okay. Let's look at let's go back to verse 10. It says, and they said unto her, surely we will return with thee unto thy people. Now, this is very similar to the way that we talk currently, right? Here in this present time. I mean, think about it. You know, if I'm, with one of my homeboys or whatever, and he brings a couple of his friends to chill and be like, nah, I'm leaving with you and your homeboys. You know, we're going to go, play some ball or something, or, whatever it is, right? Go see the game, go, catch some TV, something, right? But it's similar to saying, it's not, we will return unto thy people. They're her people, right? I hope that makes sense. Let's keep going. And Naomi said, turn again, my daughters. Why will ye go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn again, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have an husband. If I should say I have hope, if I should have an husband also tonight, and should also bear sons, would ye tarry for them till they were grown? Would ye stay for them from having husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord is gone out against me. Of course, Naomi is saying this because, she's too old to have kids, and, she knows that they're not going, that it would be a waste of time for her, for them to wait on her, right, to have any more children. But let's keep reading. Ruth's loyalty. And they lifted up their voice and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her. And she said, Behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people and unto her gods. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. Now, this is a very interesting precept, right? One thing about these translations, right, whether it be the KJV, the ASV, NLT, NIV, regardless, they are all written by men, right? And men are fallible, right? But the Lord is not fallible. The Lord just doesn't change his mind, or should I say he does change his mind sometimes, whether he pronounces judgment or not, but he doesn't change his covenant, right? And the covenant that was made with the children of Israel will remain forever, right? That's why they call it an everlasting covenant. Now, I want to go into the same precept, right? But I want to look at it in a different translation, okay? Because there's one thing about translations is, people have their own motives for why they do things. And the translators are no different from anybody else that has their own motive on what they want to do. Okay. So let's go through this and let's see if there's a different translation that makes more sense, so to speak. All right, let's see. You should go back to her people, her gods. Return after your sister-in-law. Okay. Interesting. So let's actually go to, because there's a specific translation that I'm looking for, and it's not going to be in the BLB. So what I want us to do, I want us to go into Bible Hub, and let's look at the same verse in a different translation that's not provided in the BLB. Okay, let's look at Ruth 1:15. And let's check out the Lamsa translation. Okay. Where is the Lamsa? There it is. And her mother-in-law said to her, Behold, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her kinsmen. That's interesting right there. Okay, because all the other translations don't say kinsman. Oh, well, this one, let's see. They don't say kinsman, they say gods. That's very interesting. Mostly all of them say gods, but the Lamsa is the only one that says kinsman, right? And then now we have to think about what was going on during the time of Ruth. And we know it was the judges, right? It was during the time of judges. So this word right here for gods is Elohim, H430, which is also for ruler or judges. That's interesting. Right? So if it's during the time of judges, it would behoove me to not try to research this some more and, not trying to get down to the nitty gritty of this. Why does that one translation say brethren or kinsmen, and every other one says gods? And then you have to realize where the translations were coming from, right? The majority of the translations came from somewhere. And it'll all make sense when we go back to the map. I brought out the map specifically for this reason. Where is she going back to? Where is Naomi sending Ruth and the other daughter-in-law back to? Okay. We need to understand how these translations came to be, right? That's something that, you, the listener, can try to figure out yourself, right? This is a part of trying to figure out that truth, right? So I don't think that this verse, is actually talking about going unto her gods, right? I think it's going back to her judges, okay? Going back to unto her people and unto her judges, okay? And the reason I say that is because even then, during the time of Judges and Joshua, there was already a division between the northern kingdom and southern kingdom. In fact, I think there was a division between all of the tribes, right? Each tribe went to serving themselves, right? And then another thing also is that we're gonna go into this verse 16, because this verse 16 is heavy, right? This is a heavy verse that we need to dive into and go through in depth, right? So, when you understand verse 16, you'll then make the connection in your head that verse 15 isn't talking about actual gods, but it's actually talking about her kinsmen, or it's talking about her people. But who are her people, right? We already know that the plains of Moab and Mount Nebo and the city of Jericho and all these places are in the land of Moab. But again, though they're called the land of Moab, they still are technically the land of Israel, because it belongs to the Israelites, right? Let's keep going. Let's go to verse 16 and you'll see what I'm talking about. So now verse 16. Now, in order to understand verse 16, I want to go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, let's go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so we're back to the PowerPoint and we're going to keep reading. All right. But now we're going to talk about Ruth 1:16. Okay. And hopefully this will help you to understand what the actual context of this verse is, because there's a lot of discrepancies with this verse, and I'll show you what. Okay, so it says, and Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God. Now here's a problem. You see where it says shall be? That's italicized. You see where it says or? That's italicized. There's a problem with italicized words. They're added in by the translators. Okay, any Bible scholar will tell you this, that if there's a word that's italicized in the Bible or in the KJV more than ever, because it happens more there, these are words that are added in to sort of make it make sense. But when let's go over it. again, it's the translators that are adding in these italicized words. That word shall be is added in. Let's look at another version or another translation of this same verse. Now I want to go back to not Bible Hub, but I want to go back to not the BLB, but I want to go back to the Bible Hub. Okay, let's go back to that real quick. Okay, so we're right here. Let's go to Bible Hub. Now I like Bible Hub because Bible Hub gives you a more in-depth look instead of the BLB. It's a good alternative. Okay. Let's look real quick at the Hebrew. It says, "But Ruth replied, 'Do not urge me to leave you or to turn from following you.'" See, the "or" in the block is added, right? To leave you, to turn from following you. "For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God." Now let's go back to the top because I want to look at 3 translations. The first translation I want to look at is, let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got here. Actually, as a matter of fact, let's go back to the presentation real quick. Okay. These italics, they change everything, right? It could change the precept or the verse for good, or it can change it for confusion or for bad, right? You know, again, the italicized words in the King James Bible are words that were added by the translators to help the reader. This is usually necessary when translating from one language to another because word meanings and idioms change. So to produce a more readable translation, the King James translators added certain words to the Bible text. However, to make sure that everyone understood that these words were not in the available manuscripts, they set them in italics. Okay, and what I'll do is I will add, I'll see if I can add this this website that talks all about the italics, like the majority of all the italics that were added into the KJV. Okay, let's keep going. Let's look at the comparative text, and then we'll go back to the original text, and we'll see if this makes sense. Okay. The YLT, or the Young's literal translation, says, and Ruth saith, "Urge me not to leave thee, to turn back from after thee, for whither thou goest, I go. And where thou lodgest, I lodge. Thy people is my people, and thy God my God." Okay, now that's heavy right there, because shall be and is give 2 different distinct meanings to sentences, right? Like you shall be my friend versus you are my friend. Something is current tense and one is future tense. Okay, let's look at another translation. This is the literal standard version, the LSV. It says, and Ruth says, "Do not urge me to leave you, to turn back from after you, for to where you go, I go, and where you lodge, I lodge. Your people is my people, and your God, my God." Right? So again, it's turning it from a future tense, like they shall be my people and your God shall be my God, to your people are my people and your God is my God, right? It turns from, it changes up, it makes it from a future tense to a current, right? Like this is current, like, and it changes the statement completely, right? So something so little as an italicized word can change up the entire narrative and can change up the entire scope of what's being said in the verse. Okay, let's look at another one. The Peshitta Holy Bible Translated. Now, one thing I like about the Peshitta is that it comes from the Aramaic of the Aramaic transcripts verses coming from the Masoretic text. Okay. It says, and Ruth said to her, God forbid me that I would turn from your presence and forsake you. For to the place where you will go, I shall go. And wherever you will dwell, I shall dwell. Your people is my people, and your God, my God. Right? Meaning that your God is already my God. So why are we going to two different places? Right? I can just stay with you and we can all be one happy family, sort of speaking, right? You know, the word is more definitive, right? It's you know, it sort of nails in that nail in the coffin, you know, that you know, that's actually, let me go back really quickly. I want to look at something. You know, there's a couple of examples of italics in the scriptures that sort of change, you know, depending on which translation you read, or depending on, you know, if you look at the Hebrew and see what it says versus what is translated to, it makes a whole world of difference, right? I got a couple of examples. One is Psalms 3 and 8, right? Another one is Psalms 12 and 5, right? That's a good one to check out. Psalms 18 and 3, Psalms 34, 16 and 17. You know, the one thing about Psalms 34 is that you're going to need Psalms 15 and Psalms 18, or Psalms 34:15 and 34:18, in order to complete the understanding of the idea that's being projected in that, right? Now I think that I'm going to do another class or another lesson based on the italics of things, because this is a very important topic, right? Like, we need to know these things. And if you're going to be a Bible scholar, right, or if you're going to try to understand the Bible to the best of your ability, then you're going to need to know these little tricks, or these little topics, in order to completely understand the scriptures. All right, so let's keep going. So, you know, just going back to it, you know, back to the precept, you know, let's go to the KJV again. It says, Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God. That doesn't make no sense. How can they are gonna be my people, but in reality, they're already my people, right? So the statement that's being said changes based on the words being used. Okay. Let's keep going. You know, so back to the comparative text. You know, it makes a whole world of difference when you realize, and when you go through, you know, comparative text, right? You can see the different translations, and you know, which translator sort of had a bias versus which translator just translated whatever was on the paper, right? Now let's go back to reading, okay? We will go to let's go back to the reading, okay? So now back to that verse 15, okay? So it says, and she said, behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people and unto her gods. Now I told you, I think that gods is actually talking about judges. Why? Because it was during the time of judges, right? And we know that the only gods that are around are us, right? If you go to Psalms 82, was it Psalm 82? Let me pull it up real quick. Psalms 82 and 6, I believe. All right, here we go. I have said ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. Right? So, gods, judges, rulers, whichever you want to look at. Okay. But either way, this word right here isn't talking about actual gods, because, and we'll learn this later on as we go through the scripture, that Ruth was a righteous person, right? She was righteous. She was a virtuous woman. But where did she get this righteousness from? Right? Because she was following the Lord in her land, in the land of Moab, if you can hear my air quotes. But let's keep going, right? So, and Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee, okay? I will lodge, thy people is my people, and thy God my God. Okay, so let's keep going. I hope that that's understandable. If it's not, shoot me an email, and we'll try and go over it in more depth. Okay. Verse 17, it says, where thou diest will I die, and there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if aught but death part thee and me. There's some more italicized words right there, right? And essentially, she's saying the only thing that's going to keep me from you is death. Okay. She was steadfast in staying with Naomi. She wanted to stay with Naomi. She wanted to serve the Lord. Right, let's keep going. It says, when she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, then she left speaking unto her. So they two went until they came to Bethlehem. And it came to pass, when they were come to Bethlehem, that all the city was moved about them. And they said, is this Naomi? All right, so you can see, that all the city was moved about them. Okay, let's look at that in a different translation. Let's try to understand what it is that's being said right here. All right, let's look at the NLT. All right, it says, so the two of them continued on their journey. When they came to Bethlehem, the entire town was excited by their arrival. Is it really Naomi? The woman asked. Right? They were excited because they got back. They came back. Right? They came back home. They spent 10 years in the land of Moab, air quotes, and they came back to Bethlehem. Okay. All right. So verse 20, it says, and she said unto them, call me not Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty hath dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord hath brought me home again empty. Why then call ye me Naomi, seeing the Lord hath testified against me, and the Almighty hath afflicted me? So we can see just by these two verses that Naomi was dealing with the Lord, so to speak, and she knew that the Lord was dealing with her. That only comes from righteousness, right? Because you know when you're doing wrong. You know when you're about to sin, right? And Naomi thought that she was in sin at the time. So let's keep reading. It says, so Naomi returned, and Ruth, the Moabitess, right? That's that H. Let's look at it. That's that H, I believe, 4125. Let's see. Right. H4125, the Moabitess woman. Okay. Her daughter-in-law with her, which returned out of the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of barley harvest. Right? What happens at the beginning of barley harvest? Right? She came around the Passover time. The beginning of barley harvest. Right? She came around the time of Passover. Okay. That's a nice little tidbit of information to know. All right, let's keep reading. Okay, now we're gonna get into chapter 2. All right, and we've covered so much information so far, and it was only the first chapter. Right, let's get into the second chapter and let's keep going. Let's see what else we can dig up from here. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. All right, now let's look at this because actually, you know what? I want to let's go back to the presentation, right? And I want to show you something really quickly. Okay, so we're back in the presentation, and I want to show you actually this next slide that I threw in there. And it makes sense, right? And you tell me what makes more sense, right? Traveling to and from Moab, okay? We know how our people are, right? Which makes more sense? Going from Bethlehem down, all the way down to Moab, right? You know, cutting through Edom, cutting through Moab. These people already don't like us. Okay, which makes more sense? Cutting through to Moab or cutting across into the land of Moab? And we know that this land right here where this arrow is pointing is still considered the land of Moab. This is around Mount Nebo right here where this arrow is pointing. Right? What makes more sense? Going across and coming back, or going all the way down, following the Dead Sea to the south, and then going across to Moab? Right? What would you do? Would you go 250 miles to stay with somebody else, or are you going to go 30 miles? Which one is an easier trek? Right? And we know by Deuteronomy 23 that they had no dealings with the Moabites because the Moabites didn't like them. Right? That's talking about Numbers 21. Right? How many times did Moab come against the children of Israel? Okay. So what I'm surmising here is that what Naomi and Elimelech did was they didn't go to the actual country of Moab, but instead they went to what's that? Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh's land. Right? They went to their brothers. They went to their sisters. Okay. And this was matter of fact, let's go to Joshua really quickly. I want to go here to Joshua. Let's go back here, and then I want us to go real quick to Joshua. We'll go to Joshua 23. And let's go to verse 11. Now, this is Joshua's farewell address. All right. He gives them, of course, a warning. In the first half of Joshua 23, but where I want to go is right here. Joshua 23, take good heed therefore unto yourselves, that ye love the Lord your God. Else if ye do in any wise go back and cleave unto the remnant of these nations, even these that remain among you, and shall make marriages with them, and go in unto them, and they to you. Know for a certainty, right? He's telling you, know for a certainty that the Lord your God will no more drive out any of these nations from before you, but they shall be snares and traps unto you, and scourges in your sides, and thorns in your eyes, until ye perish from off this good land which the Lord your God hath given you. Right? He's telling them, don't go and deal with these other nations. Right? But we know our people are hard-headed. Our people are going to do what they want to do regardless. It doesn't matter what the Lord says, according to them. Okay, so, he's warning them ahead of time. This is what's going to happen to you. All right, so let's actually go back. Let's go back really quickly to the presentation. So we can see right here, again, ask yourself the question, which one is easier to get to? Your brother's land or a foreign land? Okay. Now, this is going to be the one thing that's going to separate an actual Moabite from an Israelite, is that righteousness. That righteousness is key, right? We already know. We can already see, and just as the words say, as we keep reading, we can see that Naomi is a righteous sister. If you keep reading, you'll realize that Boaz also is a righteous lover of the Lord. Okay, now we have to find out how righteous Boaz is and Naomi. Okay. Let's go back to the scriptures. Let's get some more reading in. Okay, chapter 2. Ruth gleans in Boaz's field. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband, a mighty man of wealth of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. Okay, now right off the bat, we can see that Boaz is a mighty man of wealth. How do you gain that wealth? Right? Well, there's two ways. There's through the bad ways, but the bad ways is going to bring judgment from the Lord. Okay, and then there's the good ways. Let's find out how good. Let's go to Deuteronomy 8, and we'll start at verse 17. Okay, let's check this out. It says, and thou say in thine heart, my power and the might of mine hand hath gotten me this wealth. That's not a good way to look at it. Let's go to verse 18. But thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he sware unto thy fathers, as it is this day. Right? So you get your wealth, you get your established mighty man of wealth moniker from serving the Lord. Okay. Let's go to the book of Job. Let's go to the book of Job. We'll go to the first chapter. All right. This is talking about Job. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil. Right? And there was born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. His substance, now this is his I guess his assets, right? In a current term, his assets. His substance was 7,000 sheep and 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 she asses, and a very great household. So that this man was the greatest of all the men of the East. Okay. Job had a great household. He was rich. He had a lot of substance, a lot of assets. Why? Because he was a man that was perfect and upright, and he feared the Lord. So we can take that back to Boaz, and we can see that Boaz was righteous. He was a mighty man of wealth. That same wealth that is given to him by the Lord. Okay. Let's keep going, actually. Let's see, Ruth 2. As a matter of fact, actually, who else were mighty men of wealth? Right? We had David. Right? We have Solomon. They were mighty men of wealth, but they also loved the Lord. Salakia, so let's keep reading. It says, and Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, go, my daughter. All right, so 2 through 7, I guess here, glean the field, okay, and behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said unto the reapers, the Lord be with you. And they answered him, the Lord bless thee. So we know that Boaz chases after the Lord, right? He loved the Lord. He loves the Lord. He fears the Lord. He does the Lord's commandments. Okay, we're going to keep skimming through. Then Boaz said unto his servant, said over the reaper, whose damsel is this? And the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, it is the Moabitish damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab. And she said, I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. And so she came and hath continued even from the morning until now, that she tarried a little in the house. So we can see that this idea of gleaning the fields, right? This is a law that was given in Israel. Let's find out where. Let's go to Leviticus 19. Let's start there. Let's go to Leviticus 19 and we'll start at verse 9. It says, and when ye reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not wholly reap the corners of thy field, neither shalt thou gather the gleanings of thy harvest. And thou shalt not glean thy vineyard, neither shalt thou gather every grape of thy vineyard. Thou shalt leave them for the poor and the stranger. I am Yahweh, your power. All right, let's go to, that talks about the gleaning of the harvest. Right? You leave the harvest for the poor and for the widows and for the strangers that are among your people. Let's go to Leviticus 23 and let's see another account. Let's start at 22. It says, and when ye reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not make clean riddance of the corners of thy field. That's, literally the same thing that we read in chapter 19. And of thy field when thou reapest, neither shalt thou gather any gleaning of thy harvest. Thou shalt leave them unto the poor and to the stranger. I am Yahweh, your power. Okay. Let's get another one. Let's get Deuteronomy. We'll go to 24 and we'll go to verse 19. And the same thing. When thou cuttest down thy harvest in thy field, and hast forgot a sheaf in the field, thou shalt not go again to fetch it. Meaning you cut all this off of your vineyard, but you forgot, a little batch on the side somewhere, right? Don't worry about it. Leave it there, right? It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. That's important because Ruth is a widow. That the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thine hands. Okay? When thou beatest thine olive tree, don't beat it completely. Right? It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. The same thing for gathering the grapes of your vineyard. Leave some for the stranger, the fatherless, and for the widow. This is crucial. This is this is simply showing again that Boaz is righteous, right? And Ruth is a widow, right? And what is Boaz doing? Through his righteousness, he's taking care of Ruth, the widow. He's doing exactly what was being said in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. Okay, let's keep going. The same thing, let thine eyes be on the field that they do reap. Go thou after them, have I not charged the young men? Okay, so, the same, the gleaning, all the good stuff that goes on with feeding yourself. And she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground and saith unto him, why have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou shouldest take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger? There's those italics again. Okay, let's keep going. And Boaz answered and said unto her, it hath fully been showed me all that thou hast done unto thy mother-in-law since the death of thine husband, and how thou hast left thy father and thy mother and the land of thy nativity, and art come unto a people which thou knewest not heretofore. The Lord recompense thy work. Yet again, wishing well upon Ruth. All right, why would he bless her if she was a heathen? He's obviously righteous. We go back to Deuteronomy 23:6. It says, don't do that. Don't look for their well-being. Okay. The Lord recompense thy work, and a full reward be given thee of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to trust. Then she said, let me find favor in thy sight, my Lord, for that thou hast comforted me, and for that thou hast spoken friendly unto thine handmaid, though I be not like unto one of thine handmaidens, meaning she's not an official one, right? She's like unofficial. And Boaz said unto her, at mealtime come thou hither, and eat of the bread, and dip thy morsel in the vinegar. And she sat beside the reapers, and he reached her parched corn, and she did eat, and was sufficed, and left. Okay, same thing. And when she was risen up to glean, Boaz commanded his young men, saying, let her glean even among the sheaves, and reproach her not. More righteousness. And let fall also some of the handfuls of purpose for her, meaning everything that you cut, drop some on purpose so that she can have extra to have. And leave them, that she may glean them, and rebuke her not. So she gleaned in the field until even. Let's skip ahead. Okay, there's a lot of gleaning. Verse 18, and she took it up and went into the city. Okay, she went back home and showed Naomi what she gleaned. Okay, 19, and her mother-in-law said unto her, where hast thou gleaned today? And where wroughtest thou? Blessed be he that did take knowledge of thee. And she showed her mother-in-law with whom she had wrought, and said, the man's name with whom I wrought today is Boaz. And Naomi said unto her daughter-in-law, blessed be he of the Lord, who hath not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead. And Naomi said unto her, the man is near of kin unto us, one of our next kinsmen. Now, why would she, the first thing that popped out to me was this section about the man is near of kin unto us. Why would she say us? Right? It may not be nothing, but then it may be something. Especially since her son's already died. Right? Her husband is no longer around. She's alone. Who is the us? Right. Okay, let's keep going. It says, and Ruth the Moabitess said, he said unto me also, thou shalt keep fast by my young men until they have all ended my they have ended all my harvest. And Naomi said unto Ruth her daughter-in-law, it is good, my daughter, that thou go out with his maidens, that they meet thee not in any other field. So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz to glean unto the end of barley harvest and of wheat harvest, and dwelt with her mother-in-law. Okay. Let's go to the next chapter. Boaz will redeem Ruth. That's the topic. Okay. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said unto her, my daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with thee? And now is not Boaz of our kindred? That's a very interesting choice of words. With whose maiden thou wast, behold, he winnoweth barley tonight in the threshing floor. All right, so essentially she is, Naomi is giving Ruth, directions on what she has to do next. You can keep reading and see this for yourself. Let's go to verse 7. And when Boaz has eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of corn, and she came softly and uncovered his feet and laid her down. And it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid and turned himself, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. And he said, who art thou? And she answered, I am Ruth, thine handmaid. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. Another interesting choice of words. And he said, blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast showed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning, inasmuch as thou followest not young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, fear not. I will do to thee all that thou requirest, meaning he's going to take her. For all the city of my people doth know that thou art a virtuous woman. And now it is true that I am thy near kinsman, howbeit there is a kinsman nearer than I. Okay, and this is talking about the other Jake. So we're gonna tarry this night, it shall be morning, that he will perform unto thee the part of the kinsman. Okay. So all of this is essentially, this is Ruth is going to do everything that Boaz told her to do. All right. And then she's going to go back to Naomi and, explain everything that he told her to do. Okay. Let's see. All right. So let's go to the next chapter. And this is, the final chapter of Ruth. And this is where you're going to see more righteousness of Boaz. Okay. Then Boaz went up to the gate and sat him down there, and behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spake of. This is the other, I believe the other Judite that he wanted to have a meeting with. Unto whom he said, ho, such a one, turn aside, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, sit ye down here. And they sat down. This is also a righteous move. Right? He went to the gates. He went to the elders, right, to establish this meeting. Right? This is Deuteronomy 16 and Deuteronomy 17 right here. Okay, he brought the elders. That's righteousness. A person that's not righteous will just, do whatever, right? And he said, verse 3, and he said unto the kinsman, Naomi, that is come again out of the country of Moab, selleth a parcel of land, which was our brother Elimelech's. So he's selling this this plot of land that used to belong to Elimelech, right? That belonged to Naomi, right? Elimelech's wife. Since he's dead, it belongs to her. And I thought to advertise thee, saying, buy it before the inhabitants and before the elders of my people. If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it. But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know, for there is none to redeem it besides thee, and I am after thee. And he said, I will redeem it. Then said Boaz, what day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must buy it also of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. Okay, so it says, and the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar mine own inheritance. Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it. Yet again, another example of righteousness, right? This goes back to, let's go to it. Let's find out. Deuteronomy 25. Let's go to verse 5 and 6. Right here. If brethren dwell together, and one of them die, and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her, and take her to him to wife, and perform the duty of an husband's brother unto her. And it shall be that the firstborn which she beareth shall succeed in the name of his brother which is dead, that his name be not put out of Israel. Okay, so he backed off because he thought he was going to be losing his inheritance, right? Because the child that is brought from this marriage with Ruth would not belong to him, but belong to Elimelech, right? And then he wouldn't be able to keep his own inheritance, right? And I guess he thought that that was a bad thing to do. But either way, it's just showing further proof of righteousness. Let's actually go to Numbers. Let's go to Numbers 27, and we'll start at verse 8. Okay, and thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, if a man die and have no son, then ye shall cause his inheritance to pass unto his daughter. And if he have no daughter, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his brethren. And if he have no brethren, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his father's brethren. And if his father have no brethren, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his kinsman that is next to him of his family, and he shall possess it. And it shall be unto the children of Israel a statute of judgment, as the Lord commanded Moses. Okay, so we can see, instances of righteousness, right? And Boaz and the kinsman, whoever this kinsman is, seem like they're both righteous, right? So let's keep going. It says, now this was the manner in former time in Israel concerning and redeeming and concerning changing. For to confirm all things, a man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor, and this was a testimony in Israel. That sealed the deal. Okay, it actually goes a little crazier, when you look at it and see that, the woman is supposed to, spit in the face or, something to the effect. But, this is just another instance of righteousness being displayed by Boaz and by the kinsman. Okay. Let's see. Let's keep going. It's verse 8. It says, therefore, the kinsman said unto Boaz, buy it for thee. So he drew off his shoe, and Boaz said unto the elders and unto all the people, ye are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and all that was Chilon's and Mahlon's, and of the hand of Naomi, of the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren, and from the gate of his place. Ye are witnesses this day. Righteousness, righteousness, righteousness. Right? You know, so from here to verse from 8 to I think 12 maybe. So this is all talking about, you know, everybody witnessing and the you know, everything being drawn up to buy the land and all this stuff. Let's go to verse 11. And all that the people were in the gate, and the elders said, we are witnesses. The Lord make the woman that is come into thine house like Rachel and like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel. And do thou worthily in Ephratah, and be famous in Bethlehem. And let thy house be like the house of Pharez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah, of the seed which the Lord shall give thee of this young woman. Okay, so Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. And when he went into her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bare a son. And the woman said unto Naomi, blessed be the Lord, which hath not left thee this day without a kinsman, that his name may be famous in Israel. All right, so, and he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life and a nourisher of thine old age. For thy daughter-in-law, which loveth thee, which is better to thee than 7 sons, hath borne him. So this is, you know, these are the blessings, you know, this is showing the blessings to the Lord, right? They're giving, you know, they're giving the glory to the Lord. They're giving the glory to Yahweh, right? Because it's because of him that this stuff happens, right? Let's confirm that. Let's go to Genesis. Let's go to chapter 2, and we'll go to verse 24. Right? It says, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Right? Okay, so there's another precept, right? Let's go to real quick. Let's go to Matthew 19, and we'll start at verse 5. It says, and said, actually, let's go to verse 4 first. It said, and he answered and said unto them, have ye not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female, and said, for this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. Wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. It's the Lord that made all this happen. The Lord joined them together, right? And who are we to try to separate that, right? The Lord moves all the pieces on this board. We are simply pawns. Okay, so let's go back to that Ruth 4. And now we are on verse 16. Yes, verse 16. It says, and Naomi took the child and laid it in her bosom, and became nurse unto it. And the woman, her neighbors, gave it a name, saying, there is a son born to Naomi, and they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now, you know, there's a crazy lesson going around, or it's been going around for a while, by a former camp, or I'm pretty sure they're still around. I'm not going to mention the name, but saying that the baby belongs to Naomi and not Boaz and Ruth. Like, you know, this is some of the stuff that you really can't entertain as a nation, right? Because let's go to Matthew 1. Let's see this lineage, right? says the book of the generation of Yahushua Hamashiach, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac begot Jacob. Jacob begot Judas and his brethren. Let's go to verse 4. And Aram begot Aminadab, and Aminadab begot Nasan, and Nasan begot Salmon, and Salmon begot Boaz of Rechab, Booz of Rechab, and Boaz. Okay, Salakia, my bad. And Salmon begot Boaz of Rechab, and Boaz begot Obed of Ruth. Right? Not Obed of Naomi. Obed of Ruth. Okay, Ruth is the mother. The baby belongs to Ruth. Okay, let's go back to verse 4 and let's finish this out. There was a son born to Naomi, and they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now these are the generations of Pharez. Pharez begot Hezron. Hezron begot Ram. Ram begot Aminadab. Aminadab begot Nahshon. And Nahshon begot Salmon. Salmon begot Boaz. Boaz begot Obed. Obed begot Jesse. And Jesse begot David. This is the line where Christ started, right? This is, because we know that the Lord made all these promises to David, right? It calls the Hamashiach the son of David, the line of David, right? Everything started from David, right? So that was all, the line starting from Pharez, and of course these are all Judites, right? So he comes from the line of Judah. All praise to the Most High. All right, let's go back to the PowerPoint. I think we're done reading. Let's see what we got here. All right, we did the reading already. Okay. Let's go back to the slides. And just to show you that, the Most High only deals with the children of Israel. Okay, we can see throughout many scriptures that he's only dealing with Israel. Okay, there's people that don't want to accept that. There's people that don't want to agree with that. Those people have to take it up with the Lord, right? The Lord is blinding the people. He said, I believe it's in one of Paul's letters. Let me go find it real quick. It's in Romans 11:7. It said, What then? Israel hath not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election hath obtained it, and the rest were blinded. It doesn't matter how many precepts brothers know. It doesn't matter if they can quote it like the back of their hand. But if the Lord blinds you, all of that is in vain, right? If you don't understand what the Lord is trying to do, in him dealing only with his people, which are Israel, none else, right? The Lord is he has his ways, right? But let's look at a couple of precepts just to understand how the Lord is only dealing with Israel. Okay, we got Amos 3:1, 3 from the top. This is one of the famous ones, right? It says, Hear this word that the Lord hath spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. Right? Can two walk together except they be agreed? Now, if this is something that people can't agree on, there's a problem, right? Two people can't walk together, or two entities can't walk together unless this is understood, that the Lord is only dealing with the children of Israel. Let's keep going. Let's go to 1 Chronicles 17:22. It reads, For thy people Israel didst thou make thine own people forever, and thou, Lord, becamest their God. Okay, forever. That's a long time. Romans 9:3-5, another one of the classics, right? For I wish that myself were accursed from Christ for my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of God and the promises, whose are the fathers, and of whom as concerning the flesh Christ came, who is over all, God blessed forever. Amen. Christ came only for the Israelites, right? And Malachi 3:6, for I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. The Lord doesn't change, right? He's been the same from beginning, and he's going to be the same until the end. He's only going to love Israel, right? So, I believe that is the end. You know, as you can see, the idea is that Ruth is not a Moabite, right? Ruth is an Israelite who was living in the northern kingdom's division of land, right? Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, right? Because those were considered the land of Moab. Right? She didn't go all the way down south and then all the way to the east to get to the land of Moab, when you have the children of Edom who hate us, and then you have the actual children of Moab who hate us. And every time, if you go through Numbers, if you go through Deuteronomy, even if you go through some of Leviticus, you'll see that every time that Moab, or that we've been around Moab or Edom or one of the other nations, they've tried to they've tried to attack, so to speak, right? So we need to understand this. So with that being said, I guess that's the end of the presentation. Any questions, comments, concerns, if you want to partake and join in one of these presentations, give me a holler. This is the email on screen. I want to give all praise to the Most High in blessing with this understanding, and hopefully this is edifying for you. And hopefully the Spirit is running rampant right now on you, to understand this. It's the Lord that gives all the understanding, right? Anyway, all praise to the Most High. This is your brother Mahar, signing out. Shalom, Israel. Peace.